Hello and welcome back to another video. To be honest, I've been going back and forth about whether or not I should make this video because I've been trying to think of ways that I could provide value on this channel. Lately, I've been personally dealing with a lot of self-doubt and I feel like I'm coming out of that, so I figured I would share my experience as well as give some tips on how to build self-confidence, because I feel like it's one of those things that is really hard to describe and it's very hard to take actionable steps to be able to build self-confidence. I know it's possible, but I just feel like it's a little bit difficult when it comes to having something that is within you rather than like a skill that you can outwardly see. So I figured today we would talk about this, and also I just really wanted to share my experience and just provide value for other people that may be dealing with a lot of self-doubt, or maybe they just want to build some confidence. If you're new to my channel, hi, my name is Janelle. I am 29 years old and I'm currently finishing up my bachelor's degree in computer science. I live with my boyfriend and our 2 cats, and I would love to share my personal journey with you, and hopefully you can learn something from that. So if that's something that you'd like to see, please consider subscribing. I truly believe that it's possible to change who you are as a person, and that involves building up your self-confidence and eliminating that self-doubt. So without further ado, let's get into the tips. The first tip that I want to share is to find evidence. Sometimes I feel like when I'm in those moments of self-doubt, I tend to forget all of the things that I'm good at, all of the things that I've done in my past. And so sometimes I really just need to remind myself and give myself evidence that I am a capable person, that I have done things that are good. How should I say this? I really don't know how to word that. But basically, I think in order to build your confidence, you can't be sitting around thinking, oh man, I'm like not good at anything, or I haven't done anything in my life. Even if you're in high school, there are still things that you've probably done in the past that might be an achievement to somebody else, and you just don't think that it's an achievement. And then with your personal strengths, I feel like everyone has at least one personal strength. Maybe you're a very compassionate person. Maybe you're really good at getting over people. Maybe you learn things quickly. Whatever it is, it could be anything. You definitely have at least one personal strength. So I would suggest taking the time to write these things down, like physically write them down on a piece of paper, because just having it all in your head doesn't make it concrete. You won't really remember, like these things just go away sometimes. I'm definitely guilty of telling myself things that aren't even true, and then when I remember something that I've done in the past, I'm like, oh yeah, I did that before. Yeah, don't go into this mindset of thinking that you really have nothing going for you, because that's just not true. If you really struggle with writing down all the things that you are good at or that you've achieved in your life, I would ask somebody. And as a side note, I would suggest surrounding yourself with people who are rooting for you. And I don't mean like constantly seeking external validation from other people, because that's another thing. It definitely has to come from within. But when you struggle at first to come up with things that you have going for you, sometimes it's good to have your friends there with you to suggest things that you're good at. I know for sure there are things that I didn't notice in myself that other people have noticed. And then when they pointed it out to me, I was like, I really did not think about that. I didn't know that that was a trait that was admirable. So surround yourself with people who can boost yourself with confidence, and write down all of the things that you're good at and that you've achieved in your life. Second thing is self-compassion. I feel like a lot of people used to struggle with this, and now I know that a lot of people talk about positive affirmations, and maybe it's not talked about enough. Maybe like the algorithm just suggests things that end up getting on my feed where it's like, oh, positive affirmations, but they actually work. And I've definitely been guilty of having some negative self-talk. I remember I used to say that I was a very chaotic person, or that I was like a dumb bitch. I would joke about that stuff, but it really wasn't doing anything for me. I found that whenever I would say these kinds of things about myself, I would end up perpetuating the kinds of behaviors that aligned with the way that I was talking about myself. I don't know if that makes sense, but I just really like kept doing things that would keep the cycle going. And once I stopped talking bad about myself, I think that I started to be nicer to myself and I forgave myself a lot more for the mistakes that I made. And that's another thing. You definitely have to forgive yourself for your own mistakes. Personally, I find it very difficult to get things done and I often procrastinate on things. And I used to feel so bad about myself whenever I did get to the thing, when it was close to the deadline. I would always be like, oh my gosh, like, why didn't you start this earlier? I would tell myself, like, you're so horrible for not starting things earlier. That was not helping me at all. It would just not make me want to do it. But then when I flipped the script and I would tell myself, you know what, it's okay. It happens sometimes. Sometimes life gets busy. You know, things get in the way. And the past is in the past. You can't think about that anymore because there's nothing you can do about it. So any mistake that you've done in the past, the only thing that you can do is move forward and be like, yeah, that happened. It's fine. I'll do better next time and I'll move on from this. Also doing a lot of positive self-talk. Like I said, positive affirmations, like constantly telling yourself that you are capable. Look at all the evidence that you've made in the first step and remind yourself that you are a person that is capable of doing great things and that you have all the strength that is necessary in order to become the person that you want to be. For me personally, I like to tell myself that I am capable, and I have to tell myself that a lot because there is definitely a lot of times where I doubt my own capabilities, but I have to tell myself constantly that I am capable. I have done it before, so it's not a stretch for me to think that I am capable. And so I would suggest finding a couple of positive affirmations that you can constantly remind yourself of. I wanted to jump in here real quick because I felt like this was relevant to add to the video. So I just got done filming that whole video, and when I watched it back, I did not like the way that I looked, and I was honestly contemplating whether or not I should re-film the video. If I don't feel confident enough in myself and in the message that I want to share with other people, like, what does that say about myself and my own character if I'm over here filming a video about how to build your self-confidence, but then turn around and be like, oh, I didn't like the way that I looked, let me just refilm that again. And if you're watching this right now, I do not plan to refilm all of that, but I just wanted to let you know, I do have my days, I have my moments sometimes where I'm like, I really don't like the way that I look. And for me, it really takes being kind to myself and reminding myself, like, nobody's perfect. I'm not gonna look 100% every single day. That's just not possible. And I really don't think that everybody looks perfect every single day. I just don't think that that's true. And if you really think they do, maybe they won't look that way for the rest of their lives. Like, I just don't think it's possible to look good 24/7 for every single year that you live this life. If you're dealing with any sort of self-doubt, any sort of negative self-image, you really have to be diligent about stopping yourself when you start to think things like that. The third thing is to stop comparing yourself to other people. I personally struggle with this. Even in the recent past, I have struggled with comparing myself to other people on YouTube. YouTube is probably the biggest point of comparison that I struggle with because there's people out there who are able to grow their channels to 100,000 subscribers in like 6 months. I'm not even kidding you. Like, people can grow their channels super fast, and I'm sitting over here like, man, like, when is it ever gonna happen to me? And it's not a good way to think because you really have no idea what's going on in these other people's lives. I use YouTube as an example, but I think a lot of people can relate to Instagram and seeing all of their friends and family on Instagram having these perfect lives while you're just sitting over here and you're still in college at 29 years old. And I just think that it's really bad to be thinking that way. You really have no idea what's going on in these people's lives. Like, I know of people personally who are dealing with some really tough things, and then they post on their Instagram and they're like, they seem completely fine. But I know because they've told me that they're dealing with a lot of stuff right now that it's just not appropriate to post on the internet. Everyone is hiding something. There's just no way for you to logically compare yourself to them because everyone is living a different, unique life. Everyone has different things going on in their life. It's just not logical to be doing that. And I say logical because logically there's no way to compare two people unless they were the same exact person, which is impossible. So yeah, stop that. Last thing that I suggest doing after you've built up all the other 3 things that I've talked about already, I highly suggest that you do the 3 things first before doing this last thing. And I highly suggest that you start to do things that are outside of your comfort zone. It's really hard to do this part, but there's really no other way to build up your confidence without taking action. I would suggest first defining what your comfort zone is. If you're afraid of making phone calls, it wouldn't make sense for you to all of a sudden like do a speech in front of like 100 people. Like, that's not feasible. But definitely take the time to define where your comfort zone is, where you're at on your social anxiety or whatever it is that you are dealing with right now, and try to do things that are slightly outside of your comfort zone. Not like completely outside of your comfort zone, but like maybe like on the edge of your comfort zone, and make it a goal of doing things little by little until you realize that you're way further than you would have been if you didn't do anything. I think a common misconception is that people are inherently self-confident, like people are just born with self-confidence, or they just are like that. But I honestly believe that people can build up their self-confidence, and that really involves taking steps in order to build up themselves. It's really just like any other skill that you can build up, like learning to play the piano, or learning how to edit on YouTube. So you really have to put in the effort to practice your muscle of self-confidence and just keep doing things that will help build it up. This is definitely the simplified version of building your self-confidence. I really try to make it concise so that people can start taking actionable steps in order to build up their confidence, because it does take a while, and like I said, it's a muscle that you have to constantly be building. So just to recap, write down all the evidence that you have for yourself, practice self-compassion, stop comparing yourself to others, and do things outside of your comfort zone. I think if you do all of these things and you consistently do them, I believe that it's possible to build your self-confidence, and very easily too. So yeah, that is it for my video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. If you have anything to contribute, or if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below, and definitely subscribe if you are into personal growth or anything of that nature. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.